Hello there. Welcome to the Forest Collective. We are back after 2 weeks of being away from the stream for a little bit, but that's okay. We have a lot more to talk about now than we would have a couple weeks ago. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but we do have more to talk about this time around. So, anyways, how's everybody doing?
I feel like it's like morning. Like I feel like I'm in Sarajevo's time zone, kind of.
That's well, I mean I guess that's a good thing.
I
But
don't
then
know.
again,
Well, kind of.
don't
I
know.
didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm like,
Okay, maybe
yeah,
that's not such a good thing.
I'm in Australia right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. And that's awful. You should sleep. That would be great, for your mental and physical health.
But no, that's why I'm trying to kind of stay up as long as I can so that I can just reset and have my normal like sleep cycle, because you know how it is. It's like
Yes.
if you miss a night, it's like you actually, ironically, you want to just try and normalize and gut it through. But yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's true. I don't like when it comes to that kind of thing, if I've stayed up too long, I usually try my best to reset my sleeping cycle, or if I have any issues like that, I try to reset my sleeping cycle back to what I'm used to. Because it's really weird. It throws you off if you don't go, you don't do it the way you usually do. It throws me off anyways. I don't know. I mean, I'm very OCD about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also, before we get into the show, or into the main part of the show, that is, I've just been very fascinated by how bad a certain show is lately. And I was already talking to Chrono about this right before stream, but you know what? I want to start off talking about this because honestly, I cannot believe how bad this show really is. I've been watching a guy on YouTube who is sort of reviewing the show as he watches it while he's on his Twitch stream, but then he takes those clips and puts them on YouTube. Well, anyway, this is how I'm watching the episodes because I refuse to buy HBO Max to watch this. And I'm not even a hate watcher type person. I don't watch things to hate on it. But I was so curious as to how bad Velma was, and I'm sure you probably guessed by now it was Velma that I'm talking about. But I was so curious that I tried looking up clips, I tried doing this and that because I wanted to find out how bad it really was. Well, I saw clips and I'm like, that can't be the entirety of the show, right? They can't be making these types of jokes throughout the entirety of the episodes, right? Completely wrong. So when I watched this YouTuber do that, or watch through the episodes, because he of course put some sort of thing over to make, I guess, make it safe for showing on YouTube without copyright. So which I don't care. It's just plain awful anyways, but he's doing a commentary over it, and honestly, that's the only way I can stand watching it. So I already asked Prono if he had heard much about it. He's heard a few things about it. He hasn't watched anything on it, and you're lucky. You just don't want to watch it. Trust me. I'm saving you the trouble right now. I've seen it. Don't kill your eyes with that. Actually, you'd be better off to go pour bleach in your eyes than this.
I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here trying to figure out why you keep watching it. I mean, even with this guy commentating on it, it's like, why would you do that to yourself?
Well, because I enjoy this guy's commentary. Plus, he's torturing himself because his viewers are still giving him likes and making him review it. So I've got, I really like this guy. So, I'm like, I got to put in the same amount of dedication for him. I gotta watch it with him and suffer along with him. He can't be alone.
You're going to share into his pain.
Yep. Plus, I can actually say that I watched it and I can form an honest opinion about it. which that's what's really important, is forming my honest opinion without just going off of the words of others. I sort of like doing that kind of thing, which is why I don't like saying much about things I haven't watched. But that's the whole point of this channel, by the way, making sure that we watch things, and then have a review over it. Yep, whole point of this stream. This series on this stream or on this channel is to watch something and be able to review it. So I would assume I'm just messing around, but you look. I mean, these last okay. You know what? We're going to go into this right now. So all that Velma stuff aside, because I've grown to appreciate entertainment slightly more because of this show. Because even though I would say Andor wasn't my favorite show, even though the Book of Boba Fett had terrible pacing and stuff like that, it was sort of written poorly. Nothing that we have said about either of those shows will hold a candle to Velma. So I'm starting to appreciate it more. Go ahead.
Here's where I jump in and be Saray away, because I know what he would say. Like, he would say it much more in a much more pithy and eloquent way, but he would say that's probably the point, is that Velma was created to make meh or bad shows palatable and seen like masterpieces.
There's actually theories that that's why the show was created in the first place, because it's that bad.
It's like, this is kind of like a mystery science theater thing. Like, it's something that's so bad, but that makes it fun to watch, is for the hate and mockery views.
Yeah.
There are just certain things like that are just so repulsive that it makes them fun, sickly fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like the train wreck. You can't
look
avert
away.
your eyes from watching. Yeah, you can't look away because you gotta see. Yeah.
That's true. See, I asked my sister yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, like last night, I think. I asked her, would you rather, because I was watching these videos with her, and I asked her, would you rather watch this or The Last Jedi? And trust me, like, you haven't heard her opinion of The Last Jedi, but honestly, I mean, you've heard mine, so you have a very similar idea of what hers is like. But she has a very well-known hatred for The Last Jedi, and she said that she would watch that over Velma. That's something right there. And I was having a hard time deciding between the two because I hate them both. But I'm starting, she made a good point. She's like, it's from a universe that I truly love. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I love Star Wars. It's from a really wonderful universe. Even if that one sort of mucks it up a bit, that one, it's still not as bad as Velma was. Anyways, I'm done dunking on Velma here because, that's not the point of this stream. We're here to talk about The Bad Batch. The last 3 episodes. So, how do you want to do we just want to give our thoughts on all 3 episodes, or should we do one at a time? I think we should do all 3.
I think all 3, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I'm just going to go in order of who's on my screen here, and I'll put myself last, like always. So, Chrono, go ahead. Give me your honest, unfiltered opinion on the last 3 episodes of The Bad Batch.
Well, the first thing I gotta say is I fell asleep 3 times during some of them, and it's I don't hate the episodes; they are okay, but it's exactly what I didn't want to happen to this show, and it's just random weekly adventures, and they go nowhere. For 3 whole weeks, they have been showing us stuff that is okay. It's not that it's bad stuff, but they go nowhere with it. The episode with the race it was just more exposure for tech, which is okay, but it's like they did over the pod racing. It's the same as pod racing. And then there was this other episode with the I don't even remember what it was. Oh, the mission in the ruins, right?
Yes.
That was also like some obscure mission not connected to any of the main plot. And then there was the Wookiee jungling, who I didn't know. I had to look it up. It was Gunji, the guy from earlier. We saw him as a kid building his lightsaber, and I didn't remember that. And yeah, it's nice that they throw these callbacks to these characters, but his story, the way they put it, like, oh yeah, these Trandoshans are trying to destroy the forest to hunt these people, and we have to help him because he's a Jedi and he's wanted, and they're going to kill him, and that's it. There is no connection to the main story of the Bad Batch. I mean, when are we going to see them like teaming up with Rex and doing something? I mean, what Echo said, we were all here discussing when Echo said that they needed to do more and they needed to help people and whatever. And they are not doing any of that. They are just doing the same missions they were doing in season 1. But even worse, because the ones in season 1, most of them had some connection to the whole world building with the Empire and the fact that they were runaways. And now it just seems like they can go anywhere and nobody's looking for them. Nobody has figured out that they actually survived, which is really stupid. And I don't know, if it feels like, if you're telling me that you have like 5 or 10 seasons ahead, go ahead, waste all the time you want in filler episodes. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, we're going to run out of episodes and they're going to get nowhere with the main plot.
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling that too a little bit. I'm okay with filler episodes every once in a while, but that's like 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? They were okay. I enjoyed them, and it's fine. But what's the point of this? Where are you going with it? Are we ever going to see more about? I mean, the last episode before the filler started, we saw Crosshair and Cody. That was great. And you want to see more of that, or you want to see more of, okay, what's the deal with Omega, or what's the deal with the installation? Remember at the end of season 1 that they showed this place that was supposedly very important, and they were doing experiments. And when are we going to get to that? Are we going to get to that?
It'd be really cool if we actually got some explanation as to what.
A good question for another time.
That's also probably true. That's very true.
So yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, if what you want is an episodic show with stuff for every week and just that, but I don't feel the Bad Batch was intended to be that. I mean, I was under the impression that there was a story to this team. Basically, they are the A-team of Star Wars. They have become the A-team. Yeah.
They are the A-team of Star Wars. Wow, that's a good comparison. I never thought of that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this. I don't know if they will actually pick up the pace and do something different. I hope they do. I don't mind these missions. It's not like they suck or anything. They just seem pointless, because this is something you could like read in a 10-page comic book or something that you could have done with the shorts, with the Star Wars shorts that we just saw, the Tales of the Jedi. This is not substantial enough to warrant a 30-minute episode. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think my least favorite of these last few episodes were the one with the pirate theme to it. And I love pirate stuff. Like, I love pirate stuff. But it just felt, in my opinion, very out of place, because it felt too much like the pirates that we know, not the pirates that exist in the Star Wars universe. Because
Yeah, it didn't feel exactly. It didn't feel like Hondo stuff. I was like, this is not Star Wars Pirates. Exactly what the way you say it, that's the way it was. I was always trying to figure out this new character. Like, I don't know if she showed up before and I don't remember, but I feel like she's a new character.
She is. She showed up in the first episode, and that's it.
They're making pirates too wholesome here. That's the big problem. It's like it's the similar thing with like it's like with Andor and the brothels. It's like if you're gonna do the brothel, go all in on brothel. Like do pirates. And that's I think what was fun with Clone Wars is like okay, they were pirates, you know, that it's they were like funny and entertaining, but they weren't like kind of milk toast or sanitized, like especially like early Clone Wars episodes, like I just that it did feel kind of
it felt off.
Yeah.
Even with Rebels, I mean, Rebels was already sanitized compared to Clone Wars, and still when we got to the Hondo stuff, he was behaving like a pirate because he was like double crossing Ezra, making him think he was helping him, and then having him do his bidding so that he could get a profit or whatever. He was behaving like the kind of pirate he's supposed to be. So even then, that the show was supposed to be marketed to younger audiences, and here we get this character that is so bland. That she's supposed to look like she knows her stuff and she's cool and whatever. But you never care for her. It's like, yeah, you're there, but that's it.
It would have been cooler if Hondo was in that character's place.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not because that we ended up getting an episode of Power Rangers and Star Wars because, you know, the big mech thing. but it's like it's just like a pirate Power Ranger episode. That's all I can say about that episode. I mean, it would have been better if Hondo showed up and they ended up having to do a job with Hondo and maybe had a bit of conflict in between, you know, how he's doing his job and what he, you know, maybe how he handles certain situations and how they do their job and how they handle those situations. You know, there needs to be a little bit of conflict there. I bet Hondo would have made a better character for this episode if they had followed that route. And plus, you know, I mean, Hondo's a better pirate than she is. I don't even remember her name, but
yeah, Hondo's I don't remember her name either. I don't even remember what she looks like. I mean, if you wanted me to describe her to you right now, I could not. I don't even remember.
I mean, she's black. That's
just the racist in you talking, of course.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, I at least remembered something. I mean, she's
a strong female pirate.
Yes, with a weird sword thing, which
that's like the most generic description for I mean, they probably wrote that in the script, like strong female pirate.
I mean, look, nothing against the character, but Hondo would have been a better fit for that character role. Not to mention,
but he's not a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't please everybody. I mean, we got Omega, we got Sid. There's two women right there.
But you need to have like majority female characters.
Yeah. Oh, so we're talking Last Jedi, where basically at the end of the movie, the Rebel Alliance was literally nothing but women in the Millennium Falcon, except for a few.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Never mind. Then I guess I should just shut up and not say a word. But I mean, truthfully though, like I mean, her character can be good. I'd say. She might not be a bad character. It's just this first episode where we get to deal with her through the entirety of the episode was not my favorite. I mean, They have time to prove me wrong, but honestly, I don't want many more episodes with her because that would lead me to believe that it's more filler than it is like actual story. And I'd really like to see where Cody gets up to. That's really the main thing for me in this season because I've wondered ever since the Clone Wars ended because they never. Well, I'm talking about season 5 of the Clone Wars back when Disney had just bought the Clone Wars. I'd always wondered since then what was going on with Cody because we never got any explanation, and not even in Rebels we got no explanation as to what happened to Cody, and I've been wondering ever since. So unless there's like some sort of written media somewhere out there that explains it, that's canon currently and not just legends, because there's probably legends out there that just but we never got any visual media on that, and we're finally getting close to that, and all of a sudden we're getting 3 filler episodes. I really want to see what happens with Cody. That's my main thing here. Anyways, I'll let you continue on. I have things to say, but I'll say it on my turn.
Actually, I'm surprised that you say that the second episode was the one that disappointed you, because I was sure you would be disappointed with the third one.
Honestly, I sort of enjoyed that one. We never get to see Kashyyyk hardly ever.
Yeah, but what I mean is, I'm sure you were disappointed that Gunji lived.
Oh. I mean, you can't win them all, Like, some younglings have to survive. And I can't go around and, kill all the younglings myself. So it's probably fair to leave 1 or 2 around, Maybe they'll be good sport for later. Oh man, I'm going. Someday somebody will take all these out of context and actually like try to convict me of child murder or something.
Yep.
Yep. But at least I have a lawyer friend that knows everything.
Nothing I have said at all during this stream should be construed as legal advice.
Okay, never mind. I guess you're not with me on this one. That's fine. That's fine. I'll just sit in the cell murder alone.
We can talk after stream.
That's a very Sith way of doing things. I mean, you just disavowed her when she refused to help you.
Look, I make jokes about killing younglings. I've got to have some Sith in me or something. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I guess you're feeling Sarayo's quota since he's not here.
The amount of negativity in this stream is much less than it usually is, so I got to add a little bit to it, I'm sorry, Sarayo. I'm just kidding. If you ever see this. Anyways, go ahead and continue on.
Well, I think for first thoughts about the episode, I would say, yeah, they're okay. They're not the worst, but I just wonder why they're just wasting time with this instead of moving the plot forward. That's basically the way I feel about the 3 episodes.
Well, if that's all you got to say, I might just go ahead and move on to Commander Tano down here.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
You have watched these episodes, correct?
I have actually.
Nice.
I binged. I actually.
I'm mean. I'm sorry.
No, that it's warranted. I binged actually the last 4 of them earlier today.
Oh, fresh in your mind.
Yeah, no, and actually that's one thing that I'd never I hadn't done that. If I'd ever done anything, I hadn't done it in a while, and it's kind of interesting what I noticed. I think I probably had a more positive experience with those episodes because I watched them in that way. I just binged through, and the reason is it's like if you think about it, and I understand why Disney does this, why they don't release a whole series, all at once. I get that they want to get people to pay to keep up the streaming service week after week, month after month. Although, granted, that does not affect anything for people who watch Disney's content in an ethical manner. I'll let you all imagine what ethical means and construe that as you will. But
we're pirates. I don't even know what that word means. Sorry, Hondo is one of my favorites. I love him.
But yeah, for people who go the normal route of watching, I understand why Disney would spread episodes out week by week to keep people paying out money for the service, and they need to, obviously, given that they've lost over $1 billion on this service. And the $20 hot dogs that they sell at Disney World will only get them so far. That's a whole nother conversation, actually, about the parks coming up. But anyways, so I get why they do that from a financial standpoint, but at the same time, from an audience enjoyment standpoint, I think they kind of hurt some of their shows when they do that. And that's why you've noticed sometimes they'll begin a series and they'll release 2 or 3 episodes at once. Because they it's kind of caught on and realize, like, oh, it's like, if you make people wait however much time for the next episode, and then when you give them say something that's not as exciting or not as integral to kind of the main plot or the plot that people are interested in, then they'll get kind of, and then they may not be happy. You might lose them that way. And so I think, they might want to consider, honestly, releasing and, if not releasing an entire, season all at once, release much larger chunks of it all at once. Because, like I said, my experience just binging through, I think, was much more enjoyable than if I had done it the route of a week by week, watching each one. Because that would get frustrating to go for because like everyone else, it's like, obviously I'm intrigued by the whole, everything that happened in episode 3 with Crosshair and Cody and all that, and like everyone else, I'd want to know more. But then to kind of go, wait a week, get an episode that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And then wait another week, get an episode that has nothing to do with that. And then wait another week and get an episode that has nothing to do with that. That would be frustrating. But because I had just watched and binged everything through, it was it was like, oh, I at least got, kind of the Cody episode today, and that was good. And it keeps everything fresh in your memory. I think when Chrono was talking, like, this was brought up, how season 1, they seemed to do a much better job of, even when you had episodes that you might call so-called kind of filler episodes, even those episodes were kind of integrated with the big overarching plot. They did much more of a job of kind of, season 1 was less episodic, interestingly. They would weave a lot of these threads through. Like, you would get maybe a little bit of Crosshair at the end or the beginning or middle of one of these episodes that may, and so you always kind of, with each of these episodes, had a sense generally of where everyone was, or they did a good job of kind of weaving through, like, using a character like Fennec Shand, or kind of using the kind of, the Kaminoans trying to snatch Omega. They're like a bunch of these little plots, the Crosshair, but kind of woven through, so it felt like everything was much more integrated, even with the filler episodes. But this season so far, it's like they have some episodes that it is more episodic, like a lot of, like these past 3 episodes could each just stand on their own. They're each their own kind of little self-contained universe, and it's like, that's fine, but also that's where Disney should recognize that, if you're going to kind of that can leave an audience frustrated if you're not going to kind of release everything all at once. People may kind of lose patience. And I think where Disney, kind of where Disney is right now with its content, they need to be a little bit more shrewd about that, and think about, is it really financially worth it to string out series in this way? It may just be more worth it to just release everything really all at once.
Yep.
Or compromise, say split a season in half and 1 month release the first half, another the second half. There's so many ways you could go about that. But yeah, if I were just thinking about that from kind of a business angle, I would probably, and they clearly are already kind of been toying with this, with what they've done with some of the other series and releasing a few extra episodes early, but they may need to do more than that, because they still kind of have that issue. Because I watched those episodes in the way that I did, I think my experience is more positive, because I didn't feel like I was sitting waiting for something. It was like, oh, I could just blow through the next one. I didn't get that kind of, until I got the end of, obviously, the latest one. Then I got the frustration of, okay, the next one that comes out needs to be tied to Crosshair or Cody or both. Need that. But yeah, I think my experience overall was positive. I was also kind of intrigued. The little subplot that I'd almost forgotten, that kind of emerged with Sid. What's in that racing episode? And there's all these illusions that she might betray them. I'm like, what's going on with that?
They really should.
That's another thing where I'm curious. What? Okay, but once again, that's where I feel like I wish they would just release the whole season.
Yeah.
Because that's the other issue, is that, okay, so when they release the next episodes, it's like, I can remember that bit, but I think if someone's been going just the traditional week-by-week regimen of viewing it, you could easily forget that detail, too. And just another reason, I think there's something to be said for releasing all the episodes in a season all at once.
Yeah.
And then you get more satisfied customers, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think it's all that worth it to just trickle things, because it just, And the thing is, too, you get people, who are just, it doesn't really bring in that many new subscribers, paying subscribers. If you think about between all of the people who are either sharing accounts or already just have Disney Plus because it's part of some other kind of, say, internet service package that they'd already purchased, it's like, they're those kinds of, so it's like, you might as well just keep the customers that you've got happy, because I just think they're hitting kind of their limit in terms of growth, especially for a series like The Bad Batch. I could, where it's just animated Star Wars is niche. Star Wars is already niche, but animated Star Wars is like a niche of niche. So it's not like, I don't think that their bottom line would take a hit from them just releasing everything.
Yeah.
They might as well just keep people happy, which they kind of need to do.
That I agree with.
But yeah, I thought they were good. I'm glad I watched them all at once today. Although that said, if the next one doesn't connect to the main plot or give us more Cody, yeah.
It might, because the next one is a 2-part episode and it's called The Clone
Okay.
Conspiracy. So yeah, it sounds
Okay.
the episode title sounds like it could be really good. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but really I'm looking forward to
That's
something
good.
related to the clones and whatever's going on.
Yes.
So it's all big troll, and it's just about like the lady pirate.
Yeah, probably.
It's
Yeah,
got
some
nothing to
clone
do with any
conspiracy.
clones. It's just, yeah,
It's just
I mean,
Lady Pirate.
yep.
I mean, so now you're going to say the boring lady pirate, right? Like Cinta.
Yes, the uninteresting Lady Pirate. Yeah, they really. Well, I don't know. She seemed to be slightly more interesting than they were, so I'd hate to say uninteresting, but
Fair.
she is still sort of boring because all she seems to do
The
is
milk
tell
toast
outrageous.
lady pirate.
Yes, the milk toast Lady Pirate. She tells outrageous stories, does hardly anything throughout the episode, and that's it. I mean, she seems to be a mysterious character that I sort of want to know about, but I still I stand by what I said. Hondo would have been a better character to fit in her place, in my opinion. And I mean,
Yeah.
this could explain why Hondo doesn't have a crew anymore by rebels, or something like that. They could tie that in. It's just a missed opportunity. But then again, I mean, it is a little early in the timeline, so maybe they would want to do something more with Hondo than show how he lost his crew like directly after Order 66. Because I mean, there's 19 years between this and Star Wars Episode 4, and 15 years between this and where he ends up at in Rebels. That's a lot of time. So, honestly, I guess that might not be the best way to go story-wise, but at least give us, a little more Hondo. I feel like we will get some more Hondo eventually. They'll bring him back in. I mean, he's one of the best characters in the Clone Wars. He's so enjoyable to watch. Like, you love him but hate him at the same time because he's always either with or against the main characters, and you can never tell which one he is. Or at least back when we were watching it originally from beginning to end. But now that we know, now we know how it's going to go. But if you were watching it for the first time, you wouldn't know at all whether he was on your side or on their side, because he's always either fighting against the main characters or he's fighting with them. Like, he's very unpredictable, and I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Do either of you have anything else to say about these episodes before I take my turn?
Nope.
All right. Well, I didn't wait for Chrono. You have anything else to say?
No, I can.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Now it is my turn. So, my favorite episode of the 3 was actually the racing episode.
I think that was mine too.
Like, I don't know what to say except that it made me super excited. Plus, we got to have a whole episode all about Tech, and I started liking Tech a lot more after this. Like, they really needed to give him a little more character development because, I mean, they didn't seem to spend a lot of time developing his character. He was just the smarty guy, the one that knew everything. But these last few episodes that we've been getting, and I'm talking about before the next two after this one that I'm talking about, but the last few episodes, like the first episode and then this episode.
Yeah, like they've done a good job with him. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I was like back in the first episode or the the one after the first, I forget which, but the part where you had Echo going in to get Omega out of the ship on the cliff, and Tech was just there. Like I was like I was like they're going to kill him. Like
That's what I thought.
they
And it
can't
made me
do
so
that.
scared. Yes, I was like, this is not how Tech goes out. No. And, I mean, they hadn't developed his character enough at that point, but they were working on it in that episode. So I was starting to really enjoy Tech's character in that episode. And then they gave us this episode with the arrogant robot dude that I love him but hate him. Like I love him. He's funny.
I like that character. He was fun to hear and watch.
I agree. And honestly, I could take a whole show just about racing with characters like this.
Yeah.
If they had used him in his own Star Wars series, like Star Wars Pod Racing, call it Star Wars Pod Racing or call it whatever kind of racing this is. I know it's not pod racing, but that's the only thing I can think of. But just call it like Star Wars Pod Racing or something like that, and have like this character go through trying to become the number one pod racer or something. I would watch a show on that.
But actually that's not true. I mean, we already know that you hate racing shows because you hate Resistance.
We don't talk about that one. That one doesn't exist. I don't know where you got that from, but that one doesn't exist. I have no idea what you're talking about. Besides, if it did exist, it was probably poorly animated, poorly written, and made for little kids and not for the entirety of the Star Wars fandom, like this show was supposed to be. So,
but it was a racing show, so yeah.
It was, but I couldn't bring myself to watch that show because it was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
And if they did a better racing show in the form of this from this episode, the reason I picked this image right here is because I loved this episode. Like I was a little disappointed that we got a filler episode, but then when I watched this episode, I was like, okay, I am very happy about that. I want more of that, but not after the next episode. If we get more filler, I want more filler like this that actually builds up the characters like this, than does something random and ends up failing in the end, like every other Bad Batch episode where they have a job and they fail it just because things happen. Which
that's another problem, that most of the episodes so far have been following that trend. I mean, we got introduced to them that way even before they got their show, and then season 1 was all about that. But it was cool. It was well done, and now we're getting again the same pattern. And it's like you have to do something different. You can't just repeat the same mission every time, just in a different location with different characters. It can't go on like this, because then the show will have no meaning.
I mean, why do we keep getting episodes about their failed missions where things go horribly wrong instead of their successful missions where everything goes wonderfully
and the trope doesn't work because they are supposed to be like the top of the top. So how is it that they screw up every mission?
Yeah, I know, right? It what the heck? What was that? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it on your end?
Yeah, it's on my end. My niece is here.
Oh, nice.
She's singing, "Do you want to build a snowman?" She's at my door. She's treating me like Elsa.
Oh, that's great. We have background music.
Now I'm officially TFC Elsa instead of TFC Shade.
You need an Elsa avatar.
Yeah,
you know what? That's what I'll have to do that next stream. I'll just have to switch my avatar, become Elsa. I'm going to change my name to Elsa. I'm just going to do that because the cold doesn't bother me anyway. That would make more sense if you understood why I said that. So my car's heating is out.
Yeah.
And did I already mention that before?
No, but I instantly went to that memory of you frozen inside your car. So I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, my car's heating is messed up, so now I don't have much heat in my car, so I'm very cold on my way to work or anytime I drive, especially while it's really cold out here. So I've just got to learn to get over the cold, which is
What
the
if
biggest one now. I'm Elsa.
what have the temps been like in Kentucky where you are?
It's been very weird. Like sometimes it'll be like freezing cold. Like yesterday morning was awful. Like it was so
Yesterday we
cold.
had a cold snap. Like
Mm-hmm. Then by the end of the day, it was still cold, but it was actually bearably cold. Like I could take my jacket off and stand out there in that cold and not feel as bad. I couldn't do that early in the morning. I wouldn't be able to walk in there without a jacket. I'd probably turn to a block of ice. That's how cold it was. Like that, and that was all in one day. So down here, everything just like it's very sporadic. It doesn't seem to stay the same. Or I mean, if it does stay the same, it's going to be like one or the other extreme. It's going to be either too hot or too cold. It's never just perfect. So I don't know. It is what it is down here. Kentucky weather, I don't know if you've heard, but Kentucky weather is weird.
But why haven't you fixed the car heat? I mean, haven't you learned anything from Star Wars? You can just like pull some energy source from one side to the other and fix it.
he's not Ray. He can't fix anything.
That's
yeah.
true.
You're not a Mary
That's true.
Sue, of course.
I'm not a Mary Sue. Now, if Commander Tano was down here, actually, if my car had
Yeah.
messed up the day that you came and visited me, I probably would have thought, you know what? Hey, you want to look at my car?
I could have fixed it. Yes.
Yeah, just touching the hood of my car would have probably fixed it.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have any issue now. But, my car decided to wait until you weren't here to help me, so dang it. Oh, well. I guess we'll never know if you could fix a car just by simply touching it.
See, yeah, maybe I can remotely force heal your car. Maybe
Force heal my car. I never thought I'd hear that in a sentence.
The problem is
ever.
if I try that, I don't want to end up like Luke and just go poof and just
Yeah. See, we already have one less member today because work's been kicking his butt. So I don't really think I want to lose another one. That and that would be the dumbest death ever. Good thing they never did anything like that in the movies, right? Right.
Right.
Also, it would be also you would get canceled because how dare you have a woman die to fix your car?
I know. I mean, having a woman die to fix a man's car, like that's just terrible. That's just terrible. Anyways, back to the actual subject of the stream. So, yes, this episode right here, the one that's on screen, is my favorite. Actually, it's probably my favorite episode that's come out so far, besides the one with Cody. So this is actually my second favorite episode so far. I don't know if that'll change, but
I liked where, and there's a little detail, but I like different, like a little cinematography thing. I like there are different moments where like kind of the angles at which like you could see like in the cockpit. It reminded me of the Phantom Menace kind of, yeah, it was fun.
I like that too. And I sort of saw what could have been some references to the Phantom Menace. Though I don't understand why they didn't go with pod racing rather than this kind of racing.
Yes.
It's sort of a missed opportunity since they don't use pod racing that much. It would be nice to see more of that. But this wasn't bad, and I'm not going to complain. I enjoyed this filler episode because it did its job. It actually built up Tech's character. That's sort of the point of a filler episode, not to just go on some pointless adventure that ends up nearly exploding your ship just because you wanted to play a Power Ranger or something like that. Just turning on the big Megazord, just by taking its crystal. Oh yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest problem with the second episode, that it feels so meaningless. Like, why would you go and do this? What did you gain from it? Because, as you say, the racing episode builds up tech, and the other episode, the third one, it gives you a, even if it's filler, you kind of get like, okay, you now know what happened to someone like Gunji, who was already a character, an established character in the lore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of makes sense for the racing episode and the Kashyyyk episode to be there. But the one in the middle, it's like, okay, it's an adventure, but what's the point?
That is the point. There was no point.
Yeah.
It was just there to fill up time. Hence the word filler. You didn't see what I did with my hands, but I did the little SpongeBob rainbow thing when he did imagination, but filler. Just imagine SpongeBob.
We didn't see it, but
with filler above his head instead of imagination.
Yeah, I get it. And you also probably didn't realize, but you sounded a lot like Saray when you said that.
That is true. Dang, he's not here, and I'm filling in his role. This is a real role reversal here.
You're gonna wake up and your accent will change, and you'll just be stuck sounding like Saray and.
I think I'm just gonna have to be Sir A.O. Shade. A.O. Shade. I don't know. Maybe I need to change my name to that now. Oh man, you know what? We're not going to tell him this. I'm just going to change my name for the next stream to that, and we'll see how he reacts to that. That'll be funny. I'll show up like last minute before the stream starts, just so he doesn't have time to react before I start the stream. And that's how we'll start the stream, because he plans on being in the next stream. So I want to make sure that I mean, since we'll all have to be in the next stream. He says he wants us all together for this next one because of, I guess, the sponsor ad that we got coming up. It's supposed to be a real doozy, and I mean that in a good way. But anyways, I'm getting off topic again. But I've spent most of my time talking about this one episode, and that, I guess, that just goes to show how much I love this episode. But then we got the next episode, which was okay. I mean, it's not something I particularly enjoyed. It was my least favorite, as I've mentioned. I would have redone this episode in a different setting with a different character, Hondo. That, or I would have made her character more interesting instead of this person that seems to just tell a lot of tales that don't seem real. I mean, it works.
I'm gonna quote Frost here, and I'm gonna tell you that women are not meant to be interesting for you. You know.
Oh, so that's why the uninteresting lesbians never were interesting in the first place. I'm never gonna let that go. Like, if you're gonna add lesbian characters in there, make them interesting. Don't make them just there to fill in a check mark. Like check off the box. Oh, lesbians. Yep, we got that. Check. That's what they did. And
Honestly,
I'm not going back into
that. All of the Disney lesbians are boring. All of them.
I mean, I could also talk about how boring a certain pair of lesbians are in a certain show called Velma. But that show requires me to actually think about about the show, when I want to try.
But that wouldn't be a pair, right? Like everyone in that show, every woman in that show is a lesbian. I think, no.
Well, that's actually true. That's actually true. One of them's two of them are insufferable. One's an insufferable jerk that's very judgy. The other one is a drug dealer that's also very judgy. And I'm not going to say everything else that they claim that they are, just because I like to be more child friendly. But there's the first set of lesbians are very much insufferable can't stand either of their characters. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it was called Velma and based off of the Scooby-Doo universe, I would never have thought that those characters were even remotely close to the ones that we originally got in the old Scooby-Doo shows. Ugh. Just, ugh. It makes me want to puke thinking about it. Ugh. Then the adopted mother or mothers of Daphne, those are the other interesting lesbians. They aren't that bright. Like, if you're going to make lesbians, at least do them justice, because these two do not do anybody justice. Actually, at one point, I think they said that they only got with each other for, what was it? I can't remember. They didn't actually love each other when they got with each other. So that's all I don't understand who the show is for. I don't understand if they're trying to represent or make fun of them, but they're not doing a good job at broadcasting either. So, anyways, that required me to think about the show. I don't feel like thinking about it. Back to what I was saying. So, anyways, the somewhat mostly uninteresting pirate lady who could have been replaced with a better character takes us on an adventure to find a Megazord that the Power Rangers left behind on a planet that we know nothing about. And they activate it, and it starts going on a rampage and blowing up everything because, that's how mechs work. And, apparently, it just has its own firing mechanism that goes off on its own. Like, who's controlling it? Why is it doing the thing that it's doing? And why did they destroy it instead of, just shut it down? But I'll tell you why, because plot convenience for that episode. Because every time they went to do something, the little crystal thingy it kept getting knocked further and further away. And, nothing seemed to work right. So they wanted to make sure that there was conflict in this episode. So everything that could go wrong went wrong. There was one moment, and this bugs the heck out of me, because you remember when the group got separated, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One group had to go through all this puzzly stuff. The other group just ran through a tunnel and met up with them.
Yeah.
Okay, explain to me why none of them took that tunnel in the first place. And why was that tunnel there leading to the same exact spot that the puzzle that they were supposed to go through to get to that point led them to? Like, why did that all lead to that spot?
But then they wouldn't get to do the puzzle.
Yeah, that's the point, though. The tunnel without the puzzle shouldn't have been there.
I know, but then they wouldn't have gotten to do the tunnel without the puzzle.
But that don't make sense.
But
you can't defend this.
You just don't have a big enough brain for this this episode.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm like just a little pea brain. I can't honestly think of anything that would make sense for this episode, only because I have a pea brain. I am a white male, so that probably explains it. I love making jokes like that. I don't know why. But, truthfully, though, that bugged the heck out of me in that episode. Like, who was it? Wrecker and Tech, they went through that other tunnel. And Echo, I think all three of them went through that tunnel. They all three just went through a tunnel without having any obstacles, no puzzles, just because they got separated for a short time. Ended up in the same spot as Hunter, Pirate Lady, and Omega, and they had to go through a puzzle that nearly killed them. But it all leads to the same spot.
But that's obviously the point, because they have to show that Omega and the Pirate Lady are capable of outsmarting the traps. The other guys they are men, so they clearly couldn't have survived that thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Chrono got it. Gosh. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. Why do I even have a discussion anymore? We just need a Chrono Says segment that it says something. It's automatically true. Yeah, Chrono says that I'm literally going to make a segment for that now. Chrono says, it's like going to the dark side with Survey Away, but not, because it's his word is final. If he says that the show is taking us towards, some sort of nuclear bomb going off inside the head of one of the Bad Batch, it's, even though that makes absolutely no sense, that's how it's going to happen. Quote him on it.
But really, it's such a great point, though. It's like that, yeah. It's like, oh, you've got to have the women, there to, and like, yeah, that may be what's bothering me about kind of the lady pirate characters. That, and here's the thing: it's like, I'm cool with the female character present in the show being Sid, because Sid makes sense, like fits in that world that they are, and also Sid isn't overtly like. And this gets into maybe a pet peeve of mine with stories, like I like that Sid like Sid fits in that world. Sid isn't like this overtly like kind of feminine, shrinking violet character. What drives me nuts is when you have what they do with female characters is like they'll have female characters kind of in roles where they're, say, like, kind of like rough physical combat, or or just that requires some kind of like some sort of physical strength. But yet, if you look physically at the that actress or the representation of that character, it's like they don't have any muscle to them, or they don't seem like they can like actually, what I mean? And that's it. That this isn't just a Star Wars thing. This is like across fiction that seems to be. They'll have these little wisps of women like, kind of fighting, against men who are much larger than them, and it's like, okay, there are ways you can get around that. Like, you can have them, if you're in the universe where they're like guns, then yeah, you can have them be good at shooting. That's a workaround. But sometimes it's like no, they can't do physical combat with people who are, over a head tall. No, like, and realistically, no. That's actually what I thought was kind of, and I think it's a pity that they got rid of her for this reason. That's what I thought was actually kind of nice when they had Gina Carano do Cara Dune. Was she's very unusual in that she's like a very attractive woman, but she's also like, I could see her beating up a man. Versus kind of what you get so much of the kind of the wispy strong female character that it's just not. It's not believable. And so, but that's what I liked about it with the Bad Batch, where it was just kind of Sid. It's like, okay, well, Sid could beat someone up, obviously. So it's like that fit. But I feel like with the lady pirate, like, she's too, once again, a little too sanitized and too kind of, it's like, I can't actually picture her pirating, No. Yeah, she's carrying a sword around, but I just can't, I can't really picture her in that. Once again, maybe it could change my mind, but that's probably a bit of what's kind of off to me.
Yeah. I honestly, I see her as a character who's like, I see her as an older woman type character that's trying to tell stories of her past glories type of character. That's the way they've sort of written her, not to be a swashbuckling pirate. She doesn't feel like a pirate. She's a caricature of a pirate, and that's it. She's not actually a pirate. And plus, as I mentioned earlier, they're trying to shove what we know as a pirate into the Star Wars universe, in which we know what kind of pirates are in the Star Wars universe, and that's not it. They're not around using these little cutlet top swords plundering and pretending to be treasure hunters type of thing. They're
Yeah.
scavengers. They're ruthless. They will kill you.
They're
They don't
actually
go around.
pirates.
Mm-hmm,
Pirates
yeah.
in Star Wars are real pirates.
Yes. Exactly. They're and don't get me wrong. I like the the stereotype of a pirate. Like let's say Captain Jack Sparrow. I love
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
pirates. I love them.
But that's the thing.
But
When we want that, we go to the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Like we go
Yeah.
to that genre for that kind of character.
yep.
It's what I liked about the Clone Wars is like the pirates are actually doing pirate things, which is kind of unusual. Like in presumably a children's show to have pirates actually being pirates.
Yep.
And just and to see kind of Hondo like boozing and like I like kind of that early episode when like it was when Boba was with Aura Singh and I don't know, I forget the whole plot of it, but
Oh yeah.
I just remember
Yes.
when she came and that like met Hondo again. They're just like making out, and I'm like wow.
Yeah.
Like you won't see that you won't see that in a Star Wars animated show anymore. I don't know, maybe they could surprise me, but it's stuff like that. Like I don't want wholesome pirates. Like
No.
Yeah, they are supposed to be flawed people because they live a lifestyle that leads them to actually live in the moment and to try to celebrate every victory and to fight hard. And they're not the same as the hero characters. You cannot put them in the same place because it doesn't work. You don't buy it when you see it.
Exactly. And I get that they wanted to give us the classic pirate adventure in a Star Wars universe, but it just don't feel right at all.
Also, I remember very, very distinctively that when we meet Hondo and his crew and other pirates in the Clone Wars, these people were forced to reckon with. I mean, they were feared by a lot of other factions. It wasn't just like, these pirates, we just blow them up. And no, I mean, these pirates managed to capture 3 Force users. They had Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Dooku locked in, and they gave them a hard time to escape.
Not to mention they're some of the most powerful ones at that.
Even when they attempted to rescue them, they were trying to wrap their head around how are we going to do this, because we can't just go guns blazing because they are strong enough to repel us. It was very interesting to see that because they have a huge military might in the Republic. And they still were like, we got to think this through. We can't just go land in the system and start shooting people. It's not going to work.
Yep. And that's what I love about the Clone Wars pirates. That they truly were what pirates are. They're not treasure hunters, they're scavengers.
Yeah.
Though there probably was treasure hunters in the Star Wars universe, I still feel like they wouldn't be this typical depiction of a stereotypical pirate. It feels too bland to give us a depiction of something so stereotypical. I really like the way the Clone Wars did it, where they were pirates, but they weren't the ones using swords on big boats, going arg all the time, or saying, I'm going to be plundering me treasure, arg, that kind of thing. So I don't know. But I'm glad we didn't get that typical depiction. And then they tried to give us that with this last episode of The Bad Batch. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not for me. But anyways, I think I'm going to leave it at that on that episode, because I can keep going on. I mean, there's so much wrong with that mech battle thing that was going on too, that I just don't want to talk about it. The mech thing looked cool and all. And I get the lore significance for that particular mech. There's like some sort of lore significance for it or whatever, but it still felt out of place, and it could have been, in my opinion, done better. And why did no, I'm going to say one more thing. Why did the mech just so happen to go towards their ship and try to blow up their ship? There was plenty of planet in every direction to walk to.
No.
It walked towards their ship. Just so happened to be in the same direction as their ship. And it was just firing its laser, the entire time. Because, clearly it's an angry robot mech Power Ranger Megazord thing. And it just didn't like being awakened from its sleep.
Oh, if it was an angry robot, maybe it was a female robot.
Oh no!
I mean, given the standards they have been working with, it probably was a lesbian robot or something.
Oh no!
No, it's not a lesbian robot, because if it was a lesbian robot in Disney, lesbians are boring, so it would have been a very boring robot. So I think this one's just a straight female robot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Straight female robot. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right, we're ending that episode right there. We're going to move on to what I think is much better than that last episode. The third episode that we have to discuss today, which is the episode about Kashyyyk and all that stuff, which we hardly ever get to see. We hardly ever get to see Kashyyyk in anything. We've only really truly seen it in Star Wars Episode 3. There have been like games where we got to see it, but as far as like in the visual media, for story convenience and all that stuff, or not story, but for story reasons, and because now a lot of those games that we once played or that I at least once played are now not canon, like Republic Commando. You can't really go by that depiction of Kashyyyk anymore. But what we got, in my opinion, was really good. And it was cool to see the lower part of the forest, which now we understand why the lower part of the forest is so dangerous and why they live up higher in the trees. It's very interesting. And honestly, I really wish that we had gotten to see more of Kashyyyk. But I mean, this episode feels like it could have been a part 1 and 2 type thing, and it could have actually tied into the main story since there is a Jedi here, and maybe Crosshair would have been like, coming after him, because Crosshair is he's an elite soldier. You'd think that they want to send some of their best to kill a Jedi. And, they could have really turned this into a 2-parter episode. And not that I want another like filler episode, but, they could have made it into a, story episode.
Yeah, that's a big issue. That's a big issue I have with it. It's like, why would you go with the Trandoshans when you could have easily made them some like Imperial hunting party or Inquisitors or whatever you want to do, and have the Bad Batch assist Genji fighting them or something, because then you could easily insert Genji into the main plot instead of being just an episodic adventure.
Another thing I want to mention is that the main bad Trandoshan dude that looked different was really cool, and they took him out in this episode.
Yes.
Just like they did Captain Waco. What is with the Bad Batch lately and killing off wonderful villains right in the first episode they show up? It makes me so mad. Yes. I love this episode. I thought it was good. And I liked getting to see a little bit of Wookiee culture. We like I said, we don't get to see much of Kashyyyk, much less the Wookiees. So I feel like it was necessary to show them up at some point. And I mean, doing what they did though, just making it a single episode and then giving us a really cool villain. I mean, because I like that they still have the Trandoshans hunting down the Wookiees like they've always shown throughout all of like Legends, all the way up until the new canon. They've sort of kept that trend, and it also reminded me of Republic Commando, which is amazing. I love that game. I was like half expecting to see Sev come in and like join the Bad Batch, because I felt like if they wanted to make the Commandos sort of canon and sort of follow that story, this was a perfect opportunity to have Sev just show up out of nowhere and do his thing, since he was left on Kashyyyk right when the war on Kashyyyk started.
I thought they were going to go for that because in season 1 there was a reference to the Republic Commando, and I thought, oh, maybe they're signaling that they are going to include some of the characters or whatever, but they so far they haven't.
It disappoints me that they haven't. I mean, honestly, I don't get me wrong, I love the Bad Batch. I love them a lot, but I would have rather had a show about Delta Squad that followed a similar story of the Republic Commando game and then gave us stuff after that we never saw from the game, and have a whole story based on just those commandos than I would have the Bad Batch.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to play that game sometime because I keep hearing good things about it.
It's a wonderful game. You play as Boss, which is the leader of the commando squad. You get to control your squad. You get to tell them where to go and all that stuff. It's really fun. And honestly, if I were you, I'd play it on hard just to make the experience more challenging. Because I used to torture myself on that game. I had a hard time back in the day playing it because I would play it on hard. But it feels more rewarding when you actually complete the mission. And I mean, now I played it sort of recently. I think last year on hard. It wasn't as hard as I remember it being, but I will admit I did still have a challenge. And where I've played it so many times, I sort of already had the gist of how things went. So maybe that's also why I didn't have as hard of a time. But for somebody back when I was a kid playing it on PC for the first time, playing it on hard, I'm telling you, that was a challenge. It was fun, but it was a challenge. And, I still consider the game canon mainly because it really doesn't contradict anything that I know of. It doesn't contradict anything in the current lore. I still consider it canon. I mean, until they do a show similar to what I was talking about the Republic Commandos or another game that redoes the story, it's going to be canon in my heart no matter what. Such a good game. If anything else, if you don't want to play it, watch the story to it. Like maybe get like a summary of it. It's very interesting, and it is worth a try if you ever want to play it.
No, I do want to play it, and I own it because they were giving it away at some point with gold or something. I don't know. For some reason, it's on my list, and I didn't pay for it. So yeah, I'm gonna play it.
Yes, I would sure recommend it. I really miss the days of when multiplayer on it was a thing. You can't play multiplayer anymore. At least not at least on the PC. If you go on like Xbox, you can actually play split screen. Not as fun, but it is a decent experience if you want to do a 1v1 with somebody or whatever, or a 2v2. You can also play, I think, up to 4 players on one screen. It's a fun game. I remember back in the day, I was crazy on there. Like, I wasn't exactly the greatest player in the world, but I was mean. I was mean, and I'm not talking about like I go around like saying bad things to people. No, I would, where there's not a motion tracker like in Halo. As far as I remember, there wasn't. I would just follow people. If you know how a lot of modern shooters are, you can hear footsteps really loud, like Call of Duty loud type footsteps. You probably know what I'm talking about. But like in Call of Duty, their footsteps are really loud. You can hear when people walk up behind you or whatever. Not in that game. You can't hear when people walk up behind you. So I would just follow people around with the shotgun for like forever. I wouldn't do anything. I just wait for them to finally turn around and realize I was there, and then I would shoot them in the face. It's usually a one shot. I was so mean. I was so mean. But those are stories for another time. I have so many stories from that stuff. That game holds a special spot in my heart because I had so much fun with it. Just thinking about it makes me nostalgic, and I wish I can go back and play it. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. I'm very easily distracted. Back to the discussion of the last episode. So, anyways, I liked getting to see Genji again. I think is that how you say his name, Genji? Gunji, sorry, Gunji. I liked seeing him again. I was really enjoying that first part of the episode where they were like trying to torture him, and he finally saw his lightsaber and got it back. And that whole moment was so cool.
Yeah.
Though it doesn't make sense to me why Omega just so happened to care about something that she had no business getting into. Though I'm okay with the result because I like that character. I'm glad we got to see what happened to him. Though some of these things that happen is just Omega being too curious and jumping into things that she shouldn't. I mean, technically, I thought about this to myself. If I was her and I heard something like that, and I probably would have stayed away from it. I'd be like, yeah, that's none of my business. But I mean, then again, I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that. Maybe I would be different. I don't know. Nobody truly knows their self until they're put in that situation. So I guess I can't say I would have done that, but I'm just thinking to myself, that's really like, you have no idea what that is. You could just be like intruding on something that you really shouldn't be intruding on. You can get yourself and everybody else into a lot of trouble. You probably don't want to get involved. Well,
Yeah, but I think that there are two factors that justify the way Omega does things here. One, this is Omega being a kid. We have discussed this in previous episodes.
That is true.
And that sometimes gets the better of her. It's like it's not about the judgment. It's like, oh, we should do this, and this looks like interesting, and she just goes and does it. And the other is that she seems to be unable to just walk past any kind of stuff. She's like she has to at least pay a little bit of attention to whatever's in front of her.
Yeah, you're right. I probably should think about it like that. I still treat her like an adult character that would think rationally most of the time, I would hope, unless you're Anakin. So I mean, because Anakin, if you ask him to think rational, we know that is something he cannot do. Sorry, I had to make a reference to that. But honestly, though, I mean, I keep forgetting that she's a kid, and so that's on me. But I think in a way it's partly their fault because I get it. She is a kid, but they also sort of treat her not as much like a kid. They give her a lot of kid moments, but then there's times that they make her feel more like just a regular character that's not a child. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too far into it. Maybe I'm not explaining. I'm actually not explaining it great at all. Actually, I'm just going to leave it at that. Forget what I said. I'm just going to move on. Anyway, she got involved in something she wasn't supposed to. In my opinion, I was thinking, I don't know why you would have done that. There's no indication that there was actually something wrong. I don't think. Then again, it's been since last Wednesday since I watched the episode, and I can't remember exactly why she wanted to go over there. She might have heard, I guess, random Wookiee screaming and thought, "Oh, hey, trouble." But anyway, I mean, for all she knew, it could have been just a Wookiee trying out their latest hot sauce that was so hot that it made him scream. I don't know. I mean, that's what was going through my head. I have interesting thoughts. But I mean, throughout the rest of the episode, it was quite interesting going to see Kashyyyk, seeing the Trandoshans like rounding up Wookiees and stuff like that. I do enjoy seeing that kind of thing because it's paying a lot of attention to how there's like this thing between the Wookiees and the Trandoshans. So I'm glad they keep that going. And I don't understand why the Empire was down there. Then again, I could be completely wrong. But I didn't feel like they should have been down there. It should have been just the Trandoshans. I don't know why they were working with the Empire like that, or at least that closely. But if they were working with the Empire, you'd think they would have had more troops down there than just those few clones. But
Well,
I
yeah, I
mean,
mean the Empire should be interested in keeping the Wookiees in check because they were for generations they were allies to the Jedi and they
exactly.
know this they are aware of this fact so yeah they should be like keeping a very tight leash on the Wookiees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I get it that they're having Trandoshans help do some of the work for them, and that's really cool and all, but they didn't do it in the way I was really hoping they would. I mean, there should have been more Imperials down there. They should have had.
Oh, you wanted more
Uh,
Imperials?
yes, hold on. There we go. You happy now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You have
As
been
long as you're
saying
happy.
more for a while now, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for the right moment to tell him.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I know I've been saying more, but I completely forgot. I'm glad you reminded me. But you know, I wish there was like more Imperial equipment being used down there, like maybe an AT-AT Walker, which it's very crowded down there with all the trees, so maybe that wouldn't work. But you'd think they would have more Imperial equipment in use down there than just a few clones walking around. Maybe they'd have a special type of walker made for navigating through all the trees and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe use the ATRTs, the little small walkers that could walk around in that area
They
like
could
that.
easily have a destroyer station there. Like we have seen this in other planets. They
Mhm.
just have the just have it fly there and
Mhm.
easily shoot
Yeah.
whatever goes out of place. Yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
agree.
much like what they did in the movie the Rogue One. Like
Mhm.
you know how they had the destroyer on top of the mine
Mhm.
when they were extracting the kyber crystals. Why wouldn't you do that to a planet like Kashyyyk? You know they are not your allies.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are trying to enslave them, you know, and use them as free labor, then you'd think they would have had a larger imperial presence and would
Yeah.
have a little more to do with it than just contracting Trandoshans. Honestly, if they're contracting Trandoshans, that means that they're short on hand. So that means they would probably have had more troops on the ground, but not considered enough. And then the Trandoshans would come in and, you know, help sort of relieve some of that stress on the Empire.
Well,
But that's not what it feels like.
being short on troops makes sense because we saw in the previous season that they are in the middle of the process of decommissioning clones and getting people to
Hmm.
work for them. So yeah, their current army is probably stretched out too thin through the whole galaxy.
And also another thing that I've just now thought about, but why haven't we seen any of the new stormtroopers in action yet? I don't think
That
we've
is a
seen
very
any
good
of these ones,
question.
have we?
Hmm.
I mean, I think we did in the last couple episodes of the Bad Batch season 1, but why aren't they using more of them by now in season 2? It's still just clones. And I mean, nothing wrong with clones, but why is there still significantly less of those troops since there's like they've already been discovered to be using, you know, TK troopers. Um, why are they still being like sparingly using them? I mean, because they seem like they really want to get rid of clones. Why aren't they mixed in with the clone troopers?
Well, I'm guessing that one of the reasons is because the TK troopers are regular people, so they take time to be instructed or indoctrinated, whatever you want to call it. They can just show up and they give them armor and a gun and go do this. They have to be
But
trained.
isn't that what they did in Rebels? Because they clearly couldn't shoot anything.
Yeah,
The
that would
Empire
make
gave
more
up by
sense.
then.
Yeah, by that time they didn't care anymore.
Honestly, that probably is like they probably initially. Well, I mean, it's kind of like it's like with Disney and Disney Plus. Initially, they've sunk all this money into it, and as time goes by, they're kind of like start just like, cut some corners, and you get Book of Boba Fett, and then you get kind of the shaky camera work of Kenobi, and they're just like, whatever,
Yeah, too much shaky cam.
It's just, I thought, I was like, is the cameraman all right? Like, and I
He just
I
had a
never
seizure
noticed.
while doing it. But that's okay.
And I never noticed stuff like this. That's the thing. I really rarely notice stuff like this. So if I'm noticing it, then that's bad.
Well, I didn't notice it that much until like I'd heard somebody mention it, and it got worse throughout the show. And I'm like, I see what you're talking about, and now it bugs me.
Yeah, shaky cam has been a Hollywood thing for a while, and they just don't learn. This is not just on Disney. These filmmakers don't learn that people hate it. People don't like shaky cam because it really. First of all, you can't keep track of what's going on because the screen is moving so much, and some people even get headaches from this. I have a friend who cannot stand those scenes. He kind of throws up. And he's like he tunes out whenever they start doing shaky cam, and they have been told for generations, like, we don't like shaky cam fights, why do you keep doing
it? I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it might have its place. Shaky cams might have their place in certain scenes if it's done correctly, but all in all, I'm not a fan of shaky cam, and it really doesn't feel like it fits a lightsaber fight at all. And
no, it doesn't.
Let's not even get into why lightsabers feel weak and inconsistent in the new Star Wars universe, because that's a whole other discussion. Like, there's so many things wrong with
I will never get over the fact that Kenobi's lightsaber bounced on the trooper's armor. That was so stupid.
Yeah. And the thing is, it seemed like it was on a training mode. That's what it seemed like. And I mean, in lore, there was a way of like toning down the power of your lightsaber so it wouldn't actually harm a person. And it was made for training mainly, which is why Obi-Wan's, or I can't remember, it might not have been Obi-Wan's. It was either Obi-Wan's or Anakin's that hit the ground, and during that training scene when he was fighting against Obi-Wan. That's why it didn't leave a mark on the floor. But here we see a stormtrooper get his armor hit by it. Oh, nothing. It didn't do anything to the armor. He goes up a little bit more and I think swipes his neck slightly. I don't know. Maybe his shoulder, and boom, dead. I feel like if he was going to use a lightsaber against the guy, it should have been a one-hit kill. He could have went for the head.
Now that you mention all of this, it makes perfect sense. It finally makes sense. Of course he had it on training mode, because remember, they were trying to show us that Kenobi is so out of touch and he's so out of practice, he probably didn't know he had it on training mode.
Why the heck would he have had it on training mode in the first place, though? That's
because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's like a senile Jedi at this point.
Well, that's true. He only pulled out his lightsaber like twice throughout the whole series. Honestly, if they do a season 2 to Kenobi, I really hope that they don't have him fight Vader.
If they do a season 2 of Kenobi, that will be the definitive proof that people just never learn anything.
I don't know how I feel about like I both hope that they don't do a season 2 of Kenobi, but I also kind of, in a sick way, hope that they do, because and just throw more money down the toilet, because that was a pricey series.
Mm-hmm.
And
it didn't show. That was the sad part.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Like, where did all the budget go to? That's the thing.
They couldn't even get the seat right. I mean, that scene is so ridiculous when he gets up and the seat folds. It's like, what are you doing?
So I watched recently an in-depth breakdown of Kenobi, and I noticed so many things that I never noticed before. And so my overall score has went down by 1 point since that. And that's sad because I love Obi-Wan. He is my favorite Star Wars character. And for me to say that about a show that's centered around my favorite Star Wars character, played by one of my favorite actors, especially for the character himself, it just hurts me to say it too. Like, I wasn't mine originally like what was my original score? I can't remember what it was. It was like 6, 7, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere around that, yeah.
I think I gave it like a 7. So it went down to a 6 because of some of the things I noticed. And we're just gonna go with that. Unless I said something different back then, I can't remember what it was. But if I said something back then, it went down a point from that. We'll go from there. What my original score was, it's a point down from that. Anyway, I noticed a lot of things that went wrong with it, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, I never noticed this stuff before, but now that I know it, I don't know if I can go back and rewatch all of Kenobi. I can probably watch the final fight between Kenobi and Vader just because it wasn't awful, in my opinion, though the shaky cam was terrible. And the music choice was okay, but they really failed to capture the emotion that was going on in between those two with the music. And just because why did this turn into a Kenobi discussion? And just because they kept showing Reva like every other scene, it ruined the fight, in my opinion. Like, they kept cutting to a pointless scene where Reva, who shouldn't have any idea who Luke is or why he's there, or why Obi-Wan was watching over him. Frankly, the whole idea that Bail Organa was messaging him about going to Tatooine and watching over the boy, and then just so happens to be like Owen, like one of however many Owens there could have been on Tatooine, but she remembers this one guy that she just so happened to be like trying to, I guess, interrogate on Tatooine when she first got there, named Owen. She's like, that's the Owen they're talking about. It's not the one on the opposite side of the planet. It's that one. So she goes to try to kill their child just because she's got a hunch that happens to be correct, but she's got a hunch that that's correct. Goes, tries to kill him, fails because she's thinking, oh no, I'm turning into what, I wanted to get rid of. And instantly redemption arc. Yeah,
Yep.
that ruins the episode. The fight itself, if I cut out all that stuff and maybe redid the music with like Battle of the Heroes, and stuff like that, I think it would have been a much better fight scene. That, or just sprinkle in some of Battle of the Heroes, because they don't have to rely on nostalgia to make the episode good. And a lot of people were defending the music choice because they were defending it because they were like, they wanted to show that they could make something without relying on nostalgia to pull it through. Well, that's good and all, and honestly, that's admirable in a way, because if you do try to come up with something that's just as good without having to rely on the nostalgia and it actually works out, good for you. That's actually wonderful. But it didn't work out. So their best choice would have been to go the nostalgia route and at least get nostalgia points, because at least that's one thing people can agree on that they liked about it, and it would have actually added to the emotion of the fight, and maybe it would have made it somewhat better. I mean, you could probably have looked over one or two things just because, oh, look, Battle of the Heroes music. It feels like it's an emotional fight between two old friends that are no longer friends. They could have done something like that. At least got nostalgia points, but no. They chose not to. I'm a little salty about that as well. Anyways, I've gotten way off discussion. I've really said all I wanted to say, though, about that last episode. So honestly, I think we're just going to end it here, because there's not really, with these last 3 episodes, there's not really much to talk about, because it's not really giving us anything to theorize much about. the only thing we can try to talk about is maybe, stuff that came from the episode with Cody, because that's part of the main storyline, and so far we've had 3 episodes in a row that weren't part of the main storyline. So there's nothing new added to the main plot of the Bad Batch. So there's not really anything different that we can discuss. So I guess, we'll just have to wait till next Wednesday or uh Thursday for Soraya Way, right? Was it Thursday? Yes.
Yeah,
Not Thursday. It would be Tuesday.
Tuesday
I
because
don't know.
he's
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know, I was just looking online. The other interesting thing that's coming up, and it's not explicitly Star Wars related, but I think a lot of the developments could affect things for two things this coming week. You've got Disney's got its earnings call, so
Mm-hmm.
and
that's
not
going
and
to be
there-
fun.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
been, and obviously there's been interesting stuff I need to catch up on about, kind of this activist investor trying to get a board seat, and
Yep.
that's interesting. But the other thing is, and once again, this isn't something like, if you're not following this, it wouldn't sound like, oh, this affects Disney content or streaming, but I say it does. Florida's got a special legislative session, I think tomorrow, or at least sometime this week, to discuss what to actually do about Reedy Creek District that allows Disney World to exist as it does.
Mm,
And
interesting.
it's been interesting. I mean, the things, so we might get more details on what that means, because, yes, Disney Plus has lost over $1 billion, and that's a good thing. But part of why Disney is able to still get away with putting out content is because they are kind of subsidized by, unlike Netflix, it's not like that they just have their streaming service, they have their parks. And Disney World is the most visited theme park in the world, and that's the big one, that's where they get their money from. So the reason that they can make atrocities like Book of Boba Fett is because they charged, for $20 hot dogs at Disney World. Now,
Wow.
if the state of Florida enacts legislation that makes it more expensive for Disney to run Disney World, that means that they're going to have to try and get, they're not going to be able to rely as much on their theme parks for revenue. And so they'll either need to, that part of what they may need to do is, what they seem to be doing is like cutting back on streaming and re-looking at, kind of what investments they're making on their content side of things. So it all is kind of this ecosystem that everything affects, different parts of the business affect others. And if one part of the business is doing well, then they can afford to do poorly with another. But if all, kind of all divisions of their, business are doing poorly, then they're going to have to kind of confront the elephant in the room, that is their content problem. So that could be really interesting to see what comes out of that. I've read things just about that they're going to have to A, pay their debts, B, pay their fair share in taxes, but C, have more regulatory oversight. And I think people forget that in itself, forget about taxes and debt, that can also be really costly to a company like Disney. Because in the past, once again, I don't know how they run things with Disney World, but I'm guessing that with the Reedy Creek district, that they've been able to build and develop and make changes to their property without really getting permission. And if it just changes simply that such that they have to ask permission to do anything new or or anything at all
Yeah.
with Disney World, that's gonna cost them. Like they're gonna need to hire. They're gonna need to hire more lawyers, and lawyers will eagerly, come in and like just feast off of the Disney carcass, in terms of legal fees alone. To say nothing else, if say the state of Florida raises taxes on them, or who knows? But that'll be interesting, and that could, even though it sounds like something kind of at the periphery, that's something that could affect Disney content going forward. Is if they can't count on their theme parks to kind of keep them out of the hole, then they're going to need to have to make improvements in other sectors of their business. But yeah, interesting stuff to watch and look forward to.
That is interesting. I really want to know how that pans out, and I wonder what that will affect. I'm with you on that one. I believe it might have some sort of effect on it. It has to.
Yeah, it has. I'm reading some articles too on how they're going. So obviously we all know that like kind of when they got. It's interesting, kind of the life cycle of these streaming companies. How we were getting to this place where it's like everyone's got a streaming service and everyone's yanking their content out, off of Netflix, off of, and kind of trying to keep it sequestered on their own little individual services. But I was reading about how Disney's thinking about going back to licensing out and selling some of its content and to allow it to be streamed elsewhere. Now, in terms of what that means and where else their content will end up, that'll be interesting. But
Oh yeah, I saw that. It's going to be very interesting to see what they send where.
yeah, and the thing is, if they do, as soon as they do that and kind of like the more content they let leak out and license out, then that removes kind of the point of Disney Plus in the first place.
Yes.
It's they're in this really weird conundrum where they need to sell more product, but that probably means they have to give up doing this exclusivity thing that they've got with Disney Plus. They may have to license out their content to other streaming services. So yeah, it's the same thing also with like another thing that I think is kind of unique and that uniquely hurts Disney Plus is just physical media. A lot of the stuff that's on Disney Plus, people often already have as physical media or they can easily acquire. You could just like pick up from a thrift store often. And so the reason to have a subscription to Disney Plus is for new content. And if their new content just keeps sucking, then that eliminates reason for people to consume it. So that's another interesting thing where they're kind of bleeding from. It's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts for Disney Plus.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably show pretty soon how this stuff will affect it. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's probably their own fault too, that investing in the wrong things and all that stuff, thinking that this or that will work better. I mean, charging $20 a hot dog, come on. That's awful.
And I'm exaggerating, although you probably could find a $20 hot dog on like the Galactic Star Cruiser or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, that one was overpriced. Legit.
That thing where you pick, like, my goodness.
And that's failing spectacularly too. They have a lot of trouble trying to get people to go.
I found an article about them canceling
That's what I heard too.
you know,
Yeah.
because they couldn't get them booked enough. And it's so just from a as like kind of a business model, it's really dumb because so it's not just that you need to find enough people who are affluent enough to pay, you know, pay the price to do the thing. It's that you need to find enough affluent people who are willing to come back and do it again
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
again. And because of what they sell, it's not a hotel, it's like an experience. It's like most people are going to be like, okay, well, I did that. I don't need to do it again, you know? Or
Yeah.
they might do, you know, or not frequently. So it isn't like a hotel where it's like, you know, there are other benefits to it beyond just like having like you know, this kind of experiencing. It's also kind of, I don't know, and I don't know, maybe I don't know enough about the Galactic Star Cruiser, but it seems very limiting. Like I would much prefer to like just check into like kind of, you know, one of just the normal Disney resorts where you can get some sunlight and vitamin D through your window. You know,
Yeah.
because that's kind of nice for a change. And B, just have kind of more of the freedom to, you know, like park hop and, you know, yeah, I just don't think they thought this thing out. Like it doesn't have it the attraction has like kind of a longevity issue. Like you can maybe find a few people who can afford to pay the price for it once, but that doesn't mean that they're going to want to do that over and over and over in order to just keep sustaining that business, you know, ad infinitum.
And the what they offer is not even that cool because you look at it, putting aside the fact that we don't care for the sequel trilogy, they failed to include activities or stuff that people would actually die to go there for. It's like, oh yeah, I need to be there, I
Yeah.
need to go. Nothing that they offer feels like something that you must do. It's like, what's the appeal? I mean, I'm paying a lot of money and I'm going to go watch a badly choreographed fight between Rey and Kylo Ren, and I'm going to watch aliens with mediocre costumes and eat food that's full of colorant to make it look like it's from space. It's then you're offering nothing. And then there's the garden with the rocks. That sounds really stupid. Like, oh yeah, you can pretend like you move the rocks with the force. Yeah, it's just plastic rocks moving because of a mechanism, and instead of windows they have screens so that you can pretend you're looking into outer space. None of that is enough for what they're trying to make you pay.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like you know, it's you know, you would think just if you're going to do an attraction like that, I would go, you know, I would go with the like a prequel era kind of thing because that was just a much more just color. You had just so much more color
Yes,
and
I
interest
agree.
and also diversity in terms of characters and designs and it's like that. That's such a it's a much more visually interesting, you know, world than what you get with the sequels. Like I love kind of I've seen you know, this meme all sorts of places where they'll compare like, you know, like prequel characters and versus like sequel like aliens, and they like all look like potatoes,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them. They really need to do something. They just lost any chance to have the people actually care about most of what they put out. And also they have another incoming problem because right now they can't convince people to go into the Galactic Star Cruiser, and they park occupation has been going down because they have been treating the customer very badly. I was reading that they announced a lot of perks for one of the parks, but the other one didn't get them, and it's like, wait, why don't we get the same treatment as the other part? I mean, you're the same company. Why would you do this? You're showing like you want these customers to be very happy and screw this other customer. It's also a matter of the way they have been behaving, and on top of all that, Super Nintendo World is just around the corner. The moment that thing opens, they're going to die. People are going to spend their money in that other attraction because it's Nintendo and it's super cool. I have seen the videos. Of course, I want to go there. I don't care about the Disney part. I mean, whatever they're doing with Star Wars makes no sense. You would rather go to Nintendo.
I forgot about that. Yeah, they've got competition too. Yeah, that's oh my, yeah, that's gonna be so so interesting with that park. And it's sad too, like that, like, you know, they keep they make so many dumb decisions have made so many dumb decisions with that park. And it used to be really nice. Like that they keep bulldozing over a lot of the old rides and putting in new ones or just uh, yeah, and just price keeps going up on things and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the price thing is a huge problem because I mean, who are you going to sell to? Most people already are out. They can't afford the whole vacation thing, especially
Yeah.
because you're supposed to cater to families. These people are not paying for one or two; they're paying for 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So with those prices, who do you think is going to be able to pay that?
See, that's where they'll probably honestly, that's the thing is like I almost feel like that they're not that they're not catering to families really anymore. They're like and I'm saying this as a single millennial, but they're catering to like single millennials and Zoomers, like childless ones, um, they're that's 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 who they're catering to, and it's like okay, fine, but if from just from a business standpoint, you know, you probably don't want to cater to us single millennials and Zoomers because you want to cater to like the ones who've got kids because then those kids will then become your future customers and they'll have kids who will become your future customer and all that stuff. This isn't a statement on kind of whether one should have kids or whatever. Like I don't want kids, but if I were running a business, like if I were running Disney World, I would just recognize that it would behoove me to make sure that people, that families can actually afford to go to Disney World because, I want to make sure that there are future generations of customers. That's just math. But, Disney
Yeah.
doesn't do math, so whatever.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're going to leave it at that for tonight because, as interesting as that is, we won't know anything until it all actually goes down. And I'm really interested in finding out. When did you say that stuff is all going to go down?
I think at least the Florida legislatures, their special session, I think I saw a thing that maybe tomorrow, but definitely this
Tomorrow.
week.
We might have something to talk about by next stream if that's the case.
Yeah, because that's gonna, yeah, that's been the one thing that just the parks. That's been the one thing that's been kind of allowing Disney to kind of do really dumb things with its franchises. Because they can have the $1,000 hot dogs kind of subsidize all of they can have
$20 to 1,000.
Yes, the Lucasfilm Story Group is subsidized by $1,000 hot dogs sold at Disney World. Probably in the Galactic Star Cruiser. So yeah.
Yeah, it probably was the Galactic Star Cruiser.
The $20 hot dogs are just for the rest of everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, anyways, we'll probably have more to talk about then on that in the next week then. So we're gonna go ahead and end the stream right here. If you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe if you want. There's gonna be links in the description below. One for the Discord if you want to join us. It's right down there. Also, there's a link to a playlist full of just Star Wars Topics episodes. From beginning to all the way up to now. So if you want to just have a full-on playlist with just Star Wars Topics, there you go. And there's also a link for my Twitter. That's a wonderful ringtone, by the way, or an alarm sound. I don't know what that was, but I know it was a wonderful song, and I was enjoying it. And then you cut it off. Now I'm sad.
It was an ad for Dairy Queen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should have kept the ad playing. It was interesting. No, I'm just
That could be like our new outro.
Our new outro. Yeah, because I'm really bad at doing outros. I mean, I was in the middle of doing an outro and I decided to stop just to mention the music. Anyways, I already mentioned all the links and stuff in the description. So if I already said that too. Yeah, I can't say it. Oh, here we go. There we go. There's the music again. Okay, anyway. I'm having too much fun with this. I think I'm just going crazy because I'm tired. So anyways, we're gonna end it here. So may the force be with you, and we'll see you next week if nothing happens. I don't like making promises. At least
you just jinxed that.
Yeah.
We're not gonna see you next week. We're not gonna see you ever again.
Well, I mean, to be fair, nobody actually ever sees me. You only hear me, so you're right. But
from a certain point of view.
All right. Yep. May the force be with you, and we'll see you next week.
Sector.